We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So it begins.
You know how much I sacrifice?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy.
I don't have friends. I got family.
We are sex people! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
Hey, Trent.
Hi, Parth. You're looking well.
Thank you.
We have a film podcast.
We do. We've been talking for almost an hour before we started recording, actually.
I know. It's because we're in a medium distance relationship.
We are. What have you been eating most recently?
It's funny. We were supposed to record like 2 hours ago, and then I think your dad was occupying your recording space. And
He
so
was.
I went and played basketball, and I would have told you about what I ate for breakfast, which was, I mean, at this point, since I've eaten something else, it's not even worth mentioning. But what I did have happens to pertain to you, if you can even believe it.
Oh, God.
It's
Wait. Is this going to
Do you have a
be
guess?
Drinks Miss Crafty? Is this...
Oh, no. That was a good guess, though. Although the Drinksmith's leftovers in terms of paper towels and stuff. And
Drinksmiths is the feature film that shot at, that a friend of the show, Adam Volerich, directed, and we shot at Trent's house.
And luckily, the last day of the shoot was at my house, and so naturally, everyone just wanted to leave as quickly as possible. So a lot of like granola bars and protein bars got left behind. But no, Parth, it has to do with you personally. And I was driving to play basketball with friend off the show, Ryan Morales, aka Mr. M. And I was like, if I go play basketball on this empty stomach, I'm gonna walk away with a headache. So let's spend money to try to like avoid. I was like driving there. I was like, okay, I can spend like $10 to like prevent myself from being in pain like 2 hours from now. So I went and I walked into the Qdoba on Livingston because we were going to, and there was like 5 people waiting in line and 2 frazzled employees, and I was like, this wasn't meant to be. And then I walked into the Asian restaurant that's there, and then I was like unappealed by that, and then I tried to go into the farmer's market place, and then that was closed, and then I had to do the walk of shame back into the Asian place to be like, I have nowhere else to turn. But where this concerns you is I wanted to be fast, so I was like, oh, I shouldn't do soup, even though I love soup. But that was stupid because they probably have just big pots of the soup, hot. But what I got was scallion pancakes and spring rolls.
Wow.
And
I see how this relates to me.
And one time we were on set, and basically we were just like jokingly holding over Parth. I don't even think the conditions were that bad. It wasn't like that cold or that long.
It was a perfectly fine day. We had been working for 3 hours.
Yes. And with no malintent, we like jokingly were holding over Parth.
Okay, some malintent.
We were jokingly holding over Parth that he should like treat us to scallion pancakes from...
We were ordering Chinese food for lunch that day.
And then I think you tried to entertain us. You indulge us by saying yes, and then you ordered them, and then they didn't show up, and then...
Okay. Let me set the record straight.
Is that how
Let
the
me
legend...
set the record straight. I found the Chinese place that we were going to order food from, and I passed my phone around and said, everybody order something. And I was ordering fucking everybody a large portion, okay? Not just a small, which would have been sufficient.
A lot of orange chicken came my way.
I got everybody a full fucking meal because I was like, okay, everybody's working for free on my set, so it's only the nice thing to do. And then Trent orders not only a large meal, but also a side of a scallion pancake and a drink. And I remembered being pissed off because I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then I said,
these scallion pancakes weren't just for me. Let's make that known. It was
no, that's not true.
Wait,
that's not true.
Jackson and other people were like along for the ride.
Afterwards, you got the scallion pancakes for yourself initially, and then I came up to you and said, "What the fuck, Trent?" And then you were like, "Well, other people will want them too." And then, so maybe there was a conversation I wasn't a part of.
Were the scallion pancakes ultimately removed from the order?
No, they were never added on.
Okay, that makes me feel better because I was like, this was just a theoretical conversation. I didn't put it into the cart. That would have
No. I was also not like mad, but I think I was like annoyed that day because we were like running behind and whatever. And then like everybody was complaining at me, and I was like, this really isn't. It's not that cold out. I have not made anybody work that hard today. Why is everyone mad at me?
Wow, that's really like the name of the game. It's like how many good hours can I get out of these people until they turn into little fucking assholes?
And then what happened was, I think you'd put it in the notes app, the order, and there were like 7 or 8 people that day. And by the time I was ordering, I was like, all right, you know what? Everybody's working for free. I'll just buy the fucking scallion pancakes. But then when actually orating the order to the person on the phone, I forgot to add the scallion pancakes.
I think this was a happy accident.
Yes, it was. I fully intended to pay the like $5 it would take to make everybody fucking happy for the scallion pancakes. I just forgot, and then when it came, or rather when it didn't, everybody was like, "Okay, Parth's fucking pissed. I'm walking off the fucking set," and I was already like upset that day. And I was like, this sucks. I hate this. And
then, too many jokes were made about the $5 worth of scallion pancakes.
And then for the rest of the set, for those that don't know, when you do a slate, you do like scene 5A, but you don't say 5A, you say 5 apple.
Yeah.
And I believe
something that starts with the letter whatever, A, B, C, whatever.
And then it was, I think we were shooting scene 6F, and you hit this out of the park with scene 6, forgot the scallion pancakes. And then slowly every letter that increased, it would be 6, get me some scallion pancakes. It would just be like
6G,
you would keep so like you would just keep doing that. And
my only defense is
and then you and Jackson were like, you got 1 hour out of us, like 1 more hour, and then we're walking. We're walking, and like it wasn't real, but in my mind I was like, you cannot walk off this fucking set.
Oh, I'm relieved to hear that it wasn't real, because that sounds like not a good version of me.
It's a funny story. I'm not actually mad about it.
Good, me either. What have you been eating? just before any real emotions get communicated.
A few days ago, my mom made some vegetables, and we made like tacos with them. And like she like roasted vegetables and stuff like that, and like taco seasoning and whatever. And then today she made some cilantro rice and made me a little like burrito bowl with like roasted vegetables, rice, guacamole, salsa, etc.
That sounds good.
Doesn't that sound good? It was.
The glory of a home cooked meal. I will soon remember
be experiencing.
Remember what that's like. Yeah, for better or worse.
Oh God.
No. The home cooked meals from time to time, I'm sure, will be glorious. But
what's also glorious?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We both low hanging fruit. What's also glorious was this interview.
Well, really, I would say what's more glorious right now is this intro.
Nice.
Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film and hopefully have a crew member of that film to talk with us about their experience working on the picture.
Wait, didn't we have on cinematographer Eric Yue for Jane Shumbrun's new film, I Saw the TV Glow?
You could say that again. Oh, wow. There was a pun in there I wasn't intending to make.
Oh, Eric Yue.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure he's never heard anyone make a pun with his last name before.
And what you, humble listener, haven't heard is an interview quite as stimulating and fun,
informative
and jolly as
jolly
as the next 30 minutes have in store.
Yeah, and let me just say, this is just part 1.
I think we're gonna milk this interview for all it's worth, and like we're just gonna rip it down the middle.
Yeah,
present it in 2 equal halves.
Yeah, this Eric was really cool. Very quick turnaround. I saw the movie on, I think, Saturday or Sunday, and I emailed. I got in contact with him, and then the next day we were doing an interview. So
and I walked out of the movie theater like an hour before the interview started, which I told him was like the ideal setup.
Way to, yeah.
Because it was very fresh. I was reading a book recently, speaking of our episodes, and there was like an art dealer, and he was like talking to an artist, and he was like and the artist wasn't successful, and he suggested just cut all of your artworks in half and try to sell them like that. And
Wow.
that's literally what we fucking
That's what we do.
And
Yeah.
it's like
And it's working.
and it's absurdist in that, and it's literally our reality.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, here's Eric Yue, part 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our interview with Eric Yue. He's the cinematographer behind our film for today, Jane Schoenbrun's I Saw This TV Glow. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Yeah, so just to start off, what would you say your relationship with film was at a young age?
My relationship to film. It's an interesting question. I actually had a relationship to visual art before film, and painting and drawing were my primary mediums before film was. So since I was in kindergarten, I was kind of placed in like art track in like the New York public school, I guess, as a track. I was like at a magnet school, and yeah, I just was in art, and drawing and painting were kind of the things that I was drawn to. And, you know, at the time there was no like film. I'm not even sure if there's film or anything like that now for that young, but it wasn't until maybe middle school that a friend and I started trying to make stop motion animation. Yeah, a friend of mine, Lil Meyer, is also a DP, and we were doing that together, and he shot a lot of films as well, and we kind of started doing these stop motion pictures together in like middle school, and then in high school we were both doing film classes, and then we actually started the school news together, and so it kind of grew out of sort of the arts for me and deviating into film from there.
And then how did you find yourself on set for the first time, or did you go to college, or what'd you go to college for, or how'd you find yourself working on, on set?
Yeah, I went to NYU Film School, and so yeah, I kind of knew from high school that I wanted to do film, and originally I wanted to actually do special effects makeup. Like in middle school, I saw this box set, this DVD Terminator 2. It's a metal jacket. I'm sure if anyone has grown up during this time, it was a very kind of intensive DVD set that had all this behind the scenes stuff, and I was really drawn to special effects makeup because of that. I didn't realize how much was practically done. And then throughout like high school, you know, I started learning about film history, and we'd watch everything from Birth of a Nation to Bicycle Thieves to Raging Bull, and it kind of sent me on this track of like, well, maybe film can be an art form, and I didn't really think of films as like a high art until I found, you know, I go to the library by myself, and this summer I can take out these VHS copies of like Taxi Driver or whatever they had on DVD at the time, and it was like the birth of also Netflix as well, so I'd kind of rent these Criterion films through Netflix, and you know, by then I kind of knew I wanted to go to film school, and I applied, and I actually didn't get in. They put me in a purgatory program that I had to do like a general studies before I got into Tisch. So they automatically transferred me to Tisch, and then we had a summer program that we had to do, and that's when I started making, you know, one of the first like film shorts. And I had been making shorts in between, but that was like the first time I really was working with like a crew, and we were set up in groups, and we all had to change positions within our group of 4. And it's where I met one of my collaborators, David Rayboy, was from that class.
And so what was the first feature you DP'd, and what was that experience like?
The first feature I shot was David Rayboy's. It was called The Giant back in 2018. We had shot it, and it came out in 2020 during the pandemic, actually. So it was kind of a bummer that we couldn't have a theatrical. Yeah, that kind of grew out of a short film that we did together, which was his thesis film at NYU that we did in 2012. And kind of our conversations together and our visual language, we were roommates as well. So it was all kind of like a culmination of all these things and influences.
So since you went into film school, like you said, thinking makeup was your thing, what was or when was the defining pivot to camera? When did you realize that?
It's funny, people ask me about that, and there's no moment. I just kind of found me. I think in film school, it becomes like an open market. Like you start asking people around, and I was shooting a lot of my friends. I just gravitated towards the camera, and I think I always have, as if I needed to do that. And I started doing it, and then people were asking me, and my career started after school, actually directing commercials. So, I had like a few years where I was with a company and where I was pitching on music videos and commercials, and I had kind of a career as a commercial director. But ultimately, I wasn't really making too much money from that, even though I was pitching so much. But I was getting asked to shoot as well because people also liked my directing work as well, and it just sort of found me in this way. And also with features, David and I kind of came into adulthood together, and there was no other option really. Like I had to shoot his feature as well. So they kind of put me into the feature film world officially, was by doing that one.
Moving to the movie of the day, how did you first meet Jane Schoenbrunn?
I don't know who introduced Jane to my work. I think it must have been Taylor Shung, who was one of the line producers on it, and a friend from college. But Jane and I had a lot of mutual friends we found. We were linked, I got sent the script and read it, and we had a Zoom. And a lot of the people that I knew had produced World's Fair, and there's a lot of overlap in our worlds, but we had just never met. And so we had kind of a familiarity with our social circles, or at least within the film community in New York. But yeah, I don't know exactly how or why, but I know Jane saw The Giant, the film that I mentioned earlier, and thought that it felt like there's something that spoke to TV Glow in some way, even though it's very different. They both share a very darkness and sort of a subjective point of view, and the feeling for atmosphere as well.
Yeah, once you were signed on, what sort of what did the pre-production look like?
Once I was signed on to the project, very quickly, Jane and I started to get to know each other, and we had a fair bit of time for prep. And the movie pushed, I think, a month, so we had even more time. So we took that time to shot list everything. So we went through the script many times, and during that process was also us getting to know each other because we'd never worked together. And I'd go to Jane's house, and Jane would come to my office, and we'd work, and then we just kind of slowly get to know each other and our sense of humor, and kind of found our way of working together during this time. It was very special because a lot of times you don't have that amount of time to prep for a movie, but it was like rigorously shot listed, like maybe a few months before we even got to scouting. Yeah, it was a very nice process to have that amount of time. And I actually got the idea from it because I know I had done some second unit for Past Lives, and
Whoa.
Celine was like, oh yeah, Xavier and I, we like did a whole year of pre-production on Past Lives, and I was like, oh, like of course, like that's like so, and it was a very special experience for them. And I was like, that's totally how you get to make a movie that feels special is you just have to spend time with it. You have to like nurture it from an early stage and sort of make decisions. That's the dreaming phase. So we had a lot of time to dream.
Yeah, we just like not that long ago talked with Xavier Kirchner, so that's a fun meeting of worlds there.
Isn't he amazing? He's so nice.
He was very nice.
And Past Lives is amazing too.
Yes. Oh yeah, so great work on that too, because that was like one of my favorite movies last year.
I saw that hidden on your IMDb.
I give that all to Xavier. Like I was just like, he did such an amazing job on that film, and Celine as well. They're such a great, and they're making a new film right now as we speak.
Oh,
which is
we had a
really
joke that it was called Future Deaths. Just
As unfunny as that is, but you laughed.
I like dark humor. Future Deaths. Yeah, that's a good one.
In creating this preparation, were there specific inspirations you guys were pulling from, or was it purely just original thought?
It was purely original thought. There was absolutely nothing. Jane is a bona fide original. There's nothing that came before or after. No. I mean, obviously the biggest thing that, you know, everyone can point to is, you know, Buffy and these shows. I think that's very much on the surface of the film. And I think a lot of the things that I was looking at were influenced by these TV shows. And the one that I always bring up is Kieslowski's Blue, just because Jane and I sat in their apartment and watched it together and were like commenting. And I could remember that as a memory of us just like, it's like the dream of like, let's sit and watch movies together. And we did watch that film together, and we kind of, that was the main one for me. But I think we pulled from so many things. Like there's DNA from all over. There's like Simon Lang, I would say, even like Goodbye Dragon Inn kind of has a relationship to the screen and slow cinema. There's also like, I've mentioned like Joel Schumacher films, like the Batman and Robin, like those things, like we're kind of joking about, but truly like there's a component to them in there.
The neons
and the boldness and the kind of pinnacle of like maximal 90s lighting.
I mean, as a Batman Forever defender, I'm happy to hear that anything Schumacher related was in there.
Yeah, no one defends Schumacher. It's such a fully just crazy life too. If you look into Joel Schumacher's like world, I think the balance of it was trying to, when you go really bold with the lighting, like you kind of have to be restrained in the camera work and finding a balance where it doesn't feel so pastiche.
If you could speak on the duration of the shoot, and we talked briefly about how it was largely shot in the state of NJ. The
total shoot was, I think, 24 shooting days, I believe. And we had to cut 2 shooting days to shoot on 35 as a kind of compromise, because it was kind of a battle between, you know, the margins running so tight up against the practical effects as well. It was trying to find which one's more important. And it's like, we want both. We want really great costumes and prosthetics, but also we want to shoot on 35. But we had to shoot 24 shooting days in New Jersey, and we shot around, it was like 25 to 30 minutes away from like Montclair. Actually funny, we shot in one of the high schools that one of the producers actually went to.
I have relationships with the amusement park you shot at, the Keensburg amusement park, and the Saint, the venue you shot in. I've been to both of those places as a child. So that was crazy to read on the Wikipedia today.
Oh yeah, we did shoot at the shore. There's actually a scene that's inside one of the haunted houses that we cut that was kind of a bummer that we cut it, but it definitely was one of the reasons why we picked that area, because it is so spectacular. It just has this old school feeling to it. And I think we also shot at the bar. What was it called? The Saint. The Saint. We shot there. Just proximity wise, I think we were trying to keep it in 2 days. And yeah, I think like to find these locations that still have character to them, we kind of ended up going into, I think, the Saint. When we saw it, it was like, okay, clearly like that this has like such character already there. And a lot of the other bars that we went to, you know, didn't have the same like lived in quality that Jane wanted. And the amusement park as well. It was a polar opposite from like the fun center, for example, which sort of the affect of these environments are kind of similar, but totally different. Like they're supposed to be overwhelming, but one of them is like an old school amusement park with these like incandescent bulbs, and then there's the other one which is like all screens and like LED lights and stuff like that.
You talked about how you shot on 35 millimeter film. Can you talk about what that experience was like? And I can't remember if you said you shot your first feature on film.
Okay, because this film is part film and part digital, so I was just going to ask you to break down which components are which.
Oh, it's funny. Well, I guess the first response, yeah, the giant. My first film that I shot with David Rayboy, we shot that on 35, and you know, I'm very comfortable with that medium, just because of the way it holds up and makes things interesting kind of immediately. But the process of shooting this film on 35 was, Jane was very adamant about 35 from the beginning, and myself as well. We're both pretty much on the same page. And on a technical level, like my argument was that you can't really push the color that hard on digital without it feeling artificial. Like I still think like it doesn't give you that limit on digital. You kind of don't know when it's too far until you like really thought about it. But on film, it kind of folds up. Everything feels organic. And the process of that was, I mean, it's pretty simple. Like it wasn't restricting at all shooting on it. It was so shot listed and storyboarded out that I think we came out under every day for what we were budgeted for film, because we knew we did like all the coverage was accounted for. We weren't just rolling out on stuff. But it was really nice to know. I remember the first day though, it's always like getting your foot wet in the first week of knowing what your exposures are like. And I went pretty extreme dark in the first week. And I remember getting the footage back, and producers are like, "Tony Moore thinks it's a little dark. Just saying it's just a little dark, you know." And I was like, okay, I need to start being a little bit more conservative, because I think it's just different. It's a different process than like The Giant, for example. There's no studio involved, and we were really pushing that negative hard. Like I was underexposing everything 2 stops, and everything was like, my meter reading was like 0.7, you know, and I was shooting at a 2, and that means just like nothing is going to show up in there, and that's kind of the point. And like the murkiness of the blacks, and David, the director for that, wanted the night to like truly feel dark. But for this was, this was a really pleasant experience, and you know, my crew was really great. I'll say Callie Riley, who's the first AC, is very proficient in shooting on film, and she killed it and did so much prep. You know, I think that film is one of these things that no one really, unless you've shot with it, if you're produced a film on 35 or on any film, like there's a lot in the prep work of the camera beforehand, making sure that the registration is okay. Like you need a few days at the rental house, and the first AC needs that time to do their due diligence to make sure that like everything is okay. Because if you skip that, then you might have a day where everything's shaking or there's a scratch down the negative. But we didn't have any of those issues. The other question was about half digital. It's funny because I don't think of it that way, but I guess it is. We did everything on 35, and the VHS stuff was transferred from the 35 footage, because originally we were thinking, Jane had this idea that maybe the show looks kind of identical to the movie, and we kind of shot it that way, where you kind of don't realize what if this scene now is in the show, or if this is, and you kind of, but then in the edit, Jane was experimenting with delineating these worlds, and it felt really appropriate. And when I was watching the cut, we were both like, Jane did a test, like found there's like only a few people who actually do like true VHS transfers, and Jane is so deep and like knows the guy who's gonna do this, and did a test of it. And I think when we both saw the true VHS transfer, we're like, oh my God, it's doing that thing that like automatically I was like, this reminds me of all these different memories, just seeing the quality of the VHS transfer. And then there's certain shots where it degrades it almost too much, where you don't see the prosthetics enough. And so we had like so many meetings about like how we're going to figure out how to do this. And we landed on having to do it 3 times, the transfer, 1 VHS, 1 Betacam transfer, and 1, I think it's HD cam, I can't remember. And then a 4th layer, which would be like a more tunable plug-in. And so if you laid all 4 on top of each other on the track, you can kind of isolate certain parts where you're like, okay, level 1 is like VHS, that's like super degraded. Then there's like medium well, and like fully well done, and you can kind of choose which parts. And so Mikey Rossiter, the colorist, kind of helped with figuring out how to blend each one together and color match all of them. So that, I guess, would be technically digital, but really analog. It stays analog.
Talking about the pink opaque stuff, how much did you shoot of that? Like, is there more pink opaque stuff that was either cut out of the film or that you shot but didn't necessarily intend to put in the movie, or is what we see what there is?
There is a lot more that we shot. I think fairly minor, as far as like, you're not going to like, I don't know if like the extras DVD will have a lot more, but it is maybe like an intro to their characters and stuff like that. But we did have certain scenes that we shot that ended up being just like intros to the show. And I think when watching it, I mean, maybe I'll let Jane speak to this, but I think when you're watching it, you almost just you're with Owen and Owen's experience of the show. And it kind of, maybe if you stayed in the show too much, you kind of would get lost from the storyline or dwelled in it too much. So I think we had to cut a bit.
So shooting the pink opaque, both the primary version, and then also near the end, you see like the reality, him seeing as an older man version. So with all the pink opaque shooting, are you trying to approach the shooting of that differently than the movie at large? And how are you trying to like, because you talked about the format, but how you're shooting it itself, you know? Like, are you trying to replicate like the old Goosebumps sort of style, like TV that it sort of seems to be emulating?
Yeah, I would say the first part of the question that you asked about the later, older Owen's view of the pink opaque, that was actually done by Albert Burney, who is a filmmaker in his own right and also plays the Ice Cream Man as well. Like, he made a film called The Strawberry Mansion and is a friend of Jane's. And so Albert was making those videos like while we were shooting the film, so we'd kind of get, and also all of the like commercials on the TV as well. And so we get these assets from him and kind of see how it's all coming together. And it's interesting to see someone else's interpretation of the show, like before we even shot the pink opaque. Like, it feels like almost totally different in a way. And so that's that I would credit to him. And also, like, he was really big in the prep as well with Jane, kind of making some storyboards before they even brought everyone on just to like help visualize it. But as far as the shooting of the pink opaque as a philosophy and as a visual grammar, we have, I think it's lighting mainly. I was much more loose with how I was lighting it, and like hard shadow, like moonlight blue, and the ice cream man scene. But yeah, the overall grammar of the pink opaque was a lot more loose than the rest, and embracing those sort of accentuated colors and moonlight. And there's a scene with the ice cream man where I just put blue gel over. We shot that during the day, and we're like, how are we going to do this? And I was like, let's just put blue gel over the window. Like, it kind of doesn't, like, it's fine, you know. And I think like having that looseness, almost you're acting in a way. Like I think that shooting is doing cinematography a lot of times feels like acting. You're kind of living in a way of speaking, and that was one of those things where putting this blue gel over a window to be nighttime, which is just ridiculous as like an idea, but it felt right for something like that, where I do believe that like I've probably seen that before, where it's just like completely out of this world, just like it's blue. The window just is blue, and hard light, filled out light. And I probably was influenced by like looking at Buffy and seeing how hard they're using fog and stuff. There's a scene with Tara, and we just put fog everywhere and lit the trees and stuff. And I think there's a little bit of that. There's like a scale in which we wanted to go that hard with Owen's story too. I think specifically in the beginning, I think it's a little bit more in that world, and then slowly towards the end of the film, I would just use the lights that were like in the place. I'd use like fluorescent bulbs that were already there. And also I think I must have processed the film. I think I processed it normally rather than pushing it one stop. So it just feels like a bit crisper and colder. And having that differentiation. I think I use different lenses too for some parts of the older Owen scenes.
What an interview, Trent.
Dang, man!
Oh, wow.
That was fun.
I had a good time.
I would say we talked about a range of things, but really, we tried to keep it simple. We tried to talk about Eric Yue, we tried to talk about I Saw the TV Glow, but at the expense of that, we get really in-depth.
Yes, that's true. Shockingly, we really, I think, almost exclusively talk about I See the TV Glow in this interview, just because we had so much to talk about it.
It was so fresh on the noggin.
Yeah. And he was super, super informative and like really remembered a lot about making the movie, which was great. But if you left this interview being like, you know what I mean? Like it's great. This interview is great, but it's
not over, guys.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not that simple. Like,
No.
we talked with Eric Yue for like another 30 minutes. Guy had a lot to say.
Yeah, he did. And it's coming out next week, next Sunday, to be exact.
You know how, like, The Sopranos and, like, HBO has people in, like, the palm of their hand, like, on Sunday nights? Like, that's probably, like...
That's, like, us, yeah.
Like, there are probably people who, like, through their week who are, like, sitting at their desks.
I cannot fucking wait, dude.
They're like, I'm a weekend warrior, bro. Only thing that's making me hold on is that craft services episode. I was shirtless before this episode started, and then I was like, okay, it's just like a stupid 186th episode, so I should probably put a shirt on. But it made me think, like, 200, like, we need
200's on the way. What do we do?
We need to do something.
If there are any fans out there, you should probably hit us up on Instagram or Twitter. And I guess that really
good segue.
dovetails. That wasn't even intentional. But yeah, the 200th episode is coming out pretty soon. like in, I guess, 14 weeks, which is not that soon, but it's not that far either. And we don't know what to do for it. So
we don't know what you want. We
we
don't know what you want out of this relationship.
That was so aggressive.
Maybe it came from a place of truth.
We really just, you remember the scallion pancakes?
I got
really
them,
just
and they weren't that good.
Yeah, they weren't. They're fine. They were.
There's like not even a fucking whisper of scallion. There's just like green speckles on like fried dough.
I'm sorry to say, but
yeah.
Thank you so much to Eric Yue for coming on. We'll be continuing the conversation next week. You can check us out on our social media on Instagram and Twitter for updates. We upload every Sunday, and we upload to every single known podcasting platform. And
wait, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Wow, like literally true, Trent. Yeah. And please tell your friends about us. It helps,
because it really does help.
Yes. We need more listeners. We're willing to do pretty much anything for more listeners.
So when you're talking to someone and like the inevitable silence comes and you're just looking at each other being like, do I really like this person? You can delay that realization a little bit longer by saying, hey, I was listening to this movie podcast called Craft Services. Not half bad.
Yeah. If you could say that we're not half bad to your close friends and collaborators, that would be nice.
Not the best movie podcast I've heard.
No, definitely
not the worst either.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
But other than that, Trent, I think are we saying our goodbyes?
I think that's that on that, Parth. I think
we'll be seeing you next week, folks. Bye.
Yep. Bye.